Today we're looking at some simple graphs of linear equations. So first let's start out very, very basic. I'm going to give you the slope is 4 and B, the y-intercept, is -1. So M represents the slope. And remember from a couple days ago, slope is rise over run. And B is the y-intercept. I like to think of B as where you begin on the y-axis. You always begin on the y-axis. It's the y-intercept where the graph crosses the y-axis. And on this little graph, this is the x-axis, the vertical one is the y-axis. So on that vertical line, we need to find -1. So from the origin, go down 1, and that's where our first point is going to be. And then from that point, we need to rise 4, run what? 1. So rise 4, up 4, and then over 1. And then do that again, up 4, over 1, and that gives us our lovely line. It is best to use some sort of a straight edge to draw in your line. More points is better when you're drawing in a line. It's going to make it more, what's the word I'm looking for? Accurate. That's the word I'm looking for, accurate. You do need to use a straight edge when you're drawing this in. You all are supposed to have a student ID, right? Do you have your student IDs yet? No? Oh. Well, once you get your student IDs, that's a great straight edge that you can use on a graph. It's about the same size as a graph. If you want to, whatever you want to use as a straight edge, or just try to make it as straight as possible. And you should put arrows at the ends of your lines to indicate that this line would continue going up and down following that pattern. Okay, number 2, this time we have a negative slope. First of all, we are going to begin at 5. Where is 5 on this graph? Up 5. So from the origin, up 5. That is our y-intercept. That is where we are going to begin on the graph. Technically, the y-intercept has the coordinates 0, 6. I think on your assignment it might ask you for the coordinates of the y-intercept. It would be 0, 6. Then our slope is -2/7. Now remember, -2/7 is the same as -2 over 7. It's also the same as +2 over -7. So there's 2 ways to do negative slope. You can move down 2. Moving down uses the negative, so then you'd move right 7. 5, 6, 7. Or you can move up 2. If you move up 2, you haven't used the negative yet, so then you would need to use the negative to go left 7. You only use the negative once. So if you move down, you've used the negative. If you were to move from a point down and then left, you've used 2 negatives, and that creates positive slope. So if you want your slope to be negative, only use the negative once. Down, you've used the negative, so then you move right. If you go up, you haven't used the negative, so then you'd move left to use the negative. And then draw in your straight line. Okay, my ruler wasn't working very well, so hopefully that's straight enough. I had a question about what's the 06. This is the coordinates of this y-intercept. So if your assignment were to say, what is your y-intercept? And it has something that looks like this, you would fill in the y-intercept. Oops, it's not supposed to be 6, is it? Is that why it was confusing? It's supposed to be 5. So 0, 5 are the coordinates of your y-intercept. Over here on number 1, the coordinates of this y-intercept would be 0, -1. All right, we're going to do number 4. I want to skip a couple of examples, and I think number 4 is a little bit more difficult than number 3, so let's go with number 4. This time, they give you the information in slope-intercept form. So remember, this is y equals mx plus b. That means the number in front of x is your slope, and the number that is by itself, that's added or subtracted, that's your y-intercept. So in this case, our y-intercept is 4. So what are the coordinates of the y-intercept? 0, 4. That's where we're going to begin, at 4 on the y-axis. Our slope is negative. What is our slope? -1. And we turn that into a fraction by putting it over 1. So from this y-intercept, we will move down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1. Remember, we're only using the negative once. And you can put as many of these dots in as you want, as long as you keep following the slope. That dot looks a little bit funky. And then you can draw in your line. First thing we need to do is make sure that it's in slope-intercept form. So y by itself. So number 5, y is by itself. What is our slope? What number is in front of the x? A1. And what are the coordinates of our y-intercept? 0, 0. Number 6, first we're going to have to get y by itself before we can figure out what the slope and the y-intercept are. So what should we do first to get y by itself? Subtract 2x. So I have 3y. I like to put the x term first because then it looks more like y equals mx plus b. And then I need to divide everything by 3. I would divide each term by 3. It'll make it easier to simplify everything. I've got -2 over 3 in front of my x. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. All right. What is my slope? -2 over 3. And our y-intercept will have the coordinates 0, 4. I would like you to try number 7 on your own. Pause the video. So I get to this point. I've subtracted 2x on both sides. I've divided everything by -5. I've got -2x over -5. That would be positive 2/5 x. The negatives are going to cancel each other. And then -15 divided by -5 would be positive 3. So my slope is 2/5. And the coordinates of my y-intercept are 0, 3. Number 8. Does this look like y equals mx plus b? No, it looks like y equals b. Y equals 7. So what's the slope? 0. This is y equals 0x plus 7. Because 0 times x is 0, so you wouldn't write that in the equation. This is a horizontal line, and horizontal lines have a slope of 0. What is the y-intercept? Where does this graph cross the y-axis? 0, 7. Now, what if it was a vertical line? What if it was x equals 2? What's the slope? Wait a minute, what kind of slope do vertical lines have? They don't have one, it's undefined. And what's the y-intercept? A vertical line is going to look like this. Does it cross the y-axis at all? So it would have no y-intercept. So that's just a helpful hint in case maybe you see a vertical line somewhere on your assignment. I don't know, it could happen. Now, what if you got something like number 6 and you wanted to graph number 6, but you didn't want to get it into slope-intercept form? There is a way to graph it when it looks like 2x plus 3y equals 12. you need to know how to graph the X-intercepts and the Y-intercepts. So in number 9, the X-intercept is 4. That is the coordinate 4, 0. X-intercepts have an X value of 4. That's where they cross the X-axis. So that one crosses the X-axis at 4. And it has a Y-intercept of -2. 0, -2. That line would look like this. The X-intercept has a coordinate something, comma, 0. It has an X value, but no Y value. A Y-intercept has the coordinates 0, comma, something. So to find each intercept, you plug 0 into the other letter. So to find the X-intercept, we're going to use 0 for our Y value. If I put a 0 in right here, I basically have 2x equals 6. So honestly, what I do, if I'm putting 0 into one of the letters, I just cover that letter up with my finger, and I see I've got 2x equals 6. We can solve that really quickly. What does x equal? 3. My X-intercept is 3. Then I go back to find my Y-intercept. For the Y-intercept, you want to use 0 for the X. So I'm putting 0 in right here, which makes this whole term 0. What's left in that equation? -y equals 6. Divide both sides by -1. Y equals -6. Okay, so look at the screen for a minute. Watch your screen if you're watching the video. To find the X-intercept, I basically just cover up the Y, and I've got 2x equals 6. I solve that. To find the Y-intercept, I cover up the X, and I've got -y equals 6. I solve that. So finding the X and the Y-intercept is actually a pretty simple thing because you just ignore the other letter. You just cover it up in the equation. Once you have these, we've got 3, 0. So there's the X-intercept. 0, -6. And then you can grab your straight edge and you can draw a line connecting them. I would like you to try that on your own in number 12. So in number 12, find the X and the Y-intercept. Decimals are okay. We're not actually going to graph it. Just find what the intercepts are. Okay, so to get the X-intercept, you're going to cover up the Y. We have 2x equals -9. Now, -9 divided by 2 is -4.5. So the X-intercept is at -4.5. For the Y-intercept, you cover up the X. You've got -3y equals -9. Divide by -3, and we get y equals 3. Vertical lines are vux. Have you guys heard vux before? And horizontal lines are hoi. Vux means vertical line, and the equations are x equals. Horizontal lines are y equals. So if it's x equals with no y, it's a vertical line. If it's y equals with no x, it's a horizontal line.